The morning started like any other on New Hope Colony. Farmers tended their crops in the biodomes. Children laughed as they walked to school. Workers rode trams to the mining facilities. For 15 years, the humans of Proxima Centauri had built a thriving community. 50,000 people called this place home. Sofia Martinez stood at the command center window. As the colony's security lieutenant, she enjoyed these quiet moments before her shift. The red dwarf star cast an orange glow across the landscape. She sipped her coffee and nodded to the technicians monitoring the colony systems. "Lieutenant, we have an unidentified ship approaching," said Alan, the young radar operator. His voice shook slightly. Sophia moved quickly to his station. "Origin unknown. It's not broadcasting any recognition codes." She pressed the communication button. "Unidentified vessel. This is New Hope Colony. Please identify yourself." No response came. "Send the alert to Earth," Sophia ordered. "Follow protocol." Before Alan could send the message, 3 more ships appeared on the radar. They were massive vessels that dwarfed anything in Earth's fleet. "They're deploying smaller craft," Alan said. "Hundreds of them." Sophia hit the colony-wide alarm. "All citizens, this is a Level 1 emergency. Move to your designated shelters immediately. This is not a drill." The ships descended through the thin atmosphere. They were sleek, with curved hulls that reflected the orange sunlight. Sophia had never seen their design before, but she recognized their intent. These were warships. "Get me Admiral Clark at Earth Command," she said, her hand steady despite her racing heart. The communication screen flickered to life, but only static appeared. "They're jamming us," Alan said. The first explosion rocked the command center. Dust fell from the ceiling. Outside, the smaller ships fired on the residential districts. Screams echoed through the hallways. "We need to evacuate," Sophia said. "Get everyone to the emergency shuttles." But it was already too late. The alien ships landed at strategic points throughout the colony. Troops poured out, tall, insect-like beings with 4 arms and gleaming armor. They moved with terrifying efficiency. From the command center screens, Sophia watched in horror as the aliens rounded up colonists. There was no resistance. The colony had no weapons beyond basic security tools. They were scientists, farmers, and miners, not soldiers. A crackling voice came over all communication channels. The translation software struggled to keep up. "Humans of New Hope Colony, you have trespassed on sacred space. The penalty is death. The Krelthian Empire has spoken." Sophia couldn't believe what she was hearing. "There must be a mistake," she said to no one in particular. "We have treaties with all known species in this sector." The executions began methodically. The aliens used some kind of energy weapon that left no blood, no marks, just bodies slumping to the ground. Men, women, children. They made no distinctions. "We need to get a message to Earth," Sophia said. She pulled Alan from his seat. "Come with me." They ran through the back corridors of the command center toward the emergency communication bay. This station had its own power supply and quantum entanglement communicator, technology that couldn't be jammed. "Hold the door," Sophia said as they reached the communication bay. She typed her authorization code with shaking hands. The door slid open, revealing 3 of the insect-like aliens. Their compound eyes reflected Sophia's terrified face. "Run," she shouted, pushing Alan back. The young technician wasn't fast enough. The energy weapon hummed, and Alan fell. Sophia ran through maintenance tunnels she knew by heart. She reached the small hangar where the colony kept atmospheric sampling drones. These tiny crafts had basic autopilot systems and emergency supplies. As she climbed into the smallest craft, she heard the aliens approaching. She activated the launch sequence and programmed the drone to head for the military outpost on Europa. The small craft shot upward through a maintenance shaft. From above, Sophia saw the full extent of the massacre. The entire colony was surrounded. Thousands of bodies lay in the streets. The Krulthian ships methodically moved from one district to another. Tears streamed down her face as the small craft pushed toward the edge of the system. She was the only survivor of New Hope Colony, carrying the news of an atrocity the galaxy had never seen. Earth would demand justice, and Sofia Martinez would ensure they got it. The United Earth Defense Force headquarters buzzed with activity. Screens displayed the same horrific images. The ruins of New Hope Colony. 50,000 lives snuffed out in hours. Lieutenant Sofia Martinez sat in the briefing room, her eyes hollow from lack of sleep. For 3 days since her return, she had told her story over and over. Admiral William Clark paced at the front of the room. His gray hair and lined face showed the weight of leadership. This was not an accident, he said. This was not a misunderstanding. This was genocide. The room fell silent. 20 of Earth's top military and political leaders stared at the images from Sofia's drone recordings. The Krulthian Empire claims our colony violated sacred space, said Laura Bennett, the chief diplomatic officer. They say the executions were justified under galactic law. Captain Eric Johnson stood up. With all due respect, that's nonsense. New Hope Colony was established after thorough surveys. We had permission from the Galactic Council. Eric was the captain of the UES Defiant, Earth's newest and most advanced ship. At 42, he had earned respect for his balanced approach to first contact situations. Captain Johnson is right, Admiral Clark said. We followed every protocol. This attack was unprovoked. President Victoria Rousseau entered the room. Everyone stood in respect. Sit down, she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with anger. I've just finished speaking with the Galactic Council. Most species are unwilling to condemn the Krulthian Empire openly. They're afraid, Sofia said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. You didn't see their ships. Their weapons. They're far more advanced than we thought. The president nodded. Fear is a powerful motivator. The Krulthians have dominated the galaxy for thousands of years. No one wants to be their next target. So Earth stands alone. Asked Nathan Taylor, the communications specialist. Not necessarily, said the president. Captain Johnson, I'm assigning you and the Defiant to lead our response. Eric nodded. What are our orders, Madam President? First, verify Lieutenant Martinez's account. Second, gather evidence that our colony did not violate any sacred space. And third, find out the real reason behind this massacre. Laura Bennett spoke up. We should attempt diplomatic contact first. There must be reasonable Krulthians we can speak with. While carrying big sticks, Admiral Clark added, the Defiant won't go alone. I'm sending 3 additional ships as backup. This is not about revenge, the president said firmly. This is about justice. Our people were murdered without cause. We will expose the truth to the galaxy. Eric looked at the crew assignments on his tablet. We leave in 6 hours. Lieutenant Martinez, will you join us? Your first-hand knowledge will be invaluable. Sofia hesitated, then nodded. I need to see this through. As the meeting ended, Eric approached Sofia. Are you sure you're ready for this? No one would blame you for staying behind. She looked up at him, her eyes now showing a fire that matched the president's. I watched them die. All of them. I'm not just ready, Captain. I'm necessary. On the Defiant, Eric gathered his senior staff. Chief Engineer Olivia Reeves explained the ship's new stealth capabilities. Science Officer Daniel Wells showed the maps of Krulthian territory. Security Chief Ryan Cooper outlined defense protocols. The Krulthians don't know we're coming, Eric said. Our advantage is surprise and human determination. We need answers, not a war. As the Defiant prepared to leave Earth orbit, Eric stood on the bridge looking at the blue planet below. Open a channel to all Earth ships, he said to Nathan. Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Eric Johnson. Today we depart on humanity's most important mission. We seek not war, but truth. Not revenge, but justice. The galaxy watched in silence as our people died. Now they will watch as Earth demands accountability. He paused. For New Hope Colony. For New Hope Colony, the crew repeated. The Defiant's engines flared to life, propelling the ship toward the stars. Earth's response had begun. The Galactic Council chamber was enormous. Thousands of representatives from hundreds of species sat in tiered seats that rose high above the central speaking platform. Earth's ambassador Henry Davidson stood alone at the center. His gray suit looked plain next to the elaborate clothing of the older species. The evidence is clear, Henry said, his voice echoing through the chamber. New Hope Colony was not on sacred ground. The Krelthian Empire's claim is false. Behind him, large screens showed maps and surveys. Captain Eric Johnson had sent this data from the Defiant. His crew had spent 2 weeks gathering proof. The Krelthian ambassador rose from his seat. He was tall and insect-like, with 4 arms and compound eyes. His voice translator made his words sound cold and mechanical. Earth is a young species, he said. You are ignorant of galactic history. Sacred space is not merely physical. It exists across dimensions you cannot perceive. Many council members nodded in agreement. The Krelthian Empire had ruled for thousands of years. Most species were afraid to question them. Then explain this, Henry said. He motioned to change the screen. Now it showed intercepted Krelthian communications. Nathan Taylor had broken their encryption codes. The messages were clear. The humans multiply too quickly. Their colony was a test of their defenses. Their execution will teach them their place. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The Krelthian ambassador's compound eyes flashed with anger. This is fabricated, he said. Humans are primitive liars. They are unworthy of council attention. An old, frail alien slowly stood from his seat. His skin was pale blue and seemed to glow slightly. The chamber fell silent. The Silurians were one of the oldest species in the galaxy, known for their wisdom and neutrality. I remember when the Krelthians did the same to our outer colonies, the Silurian said, his voice soft but firm. 300 years ago. They claimed sacred space then too. We were too afraid to speak. I will not be silent again. The Krelthian ambassador pointed all 4 of his arms at the Silurian. You forget your place, old one. No, the Silurian replied. You forget yours. 3 other representatives stood. They were from smaller species, the bear-like ursins, the aquatic Marisi, and the plant-based Florins. The Krelthian Empire destroyed our research station 50 years ago, said the Ursin. They claimed our water moon violated their space, added the Marisi. They burned our seedling colony without warning. The Florins translator whispered. Henry looked around the chamber in surprise. He had not expected allies. Earth stands with you, he said to the 4 representatives. And we ask, who else will stand with us? The chamber erupted in shouting. Some species demanded action against the Krelthians. Others called for caution. Many remained silent, watching to see which side would win. On the Defiant, Eric and his crew watched the council broadcast. Chief Engineer Olivia Reeves studied the technology of their new allies. The Ursins have incredible shield technology, she said. The Marisi have stealth systems we've never seen. The Silurians understand Krelthian biology, and the Florins can grow ships that repair themselves. Can we combine these technologies? Eric asked. Olivia smiled. Give me 2 days. Laura Bennett looked concerned. Captain, these species have suffered Krelthian aggression for centuries. They may want revenge, not justice. Eric nodded. That's why Earth must lead this alliance. We demand a fair trial, not executions. We are better than our enemies. Sofia Martinez spoke for the first time in days. The Krelthians called us primitive, but they're the ones who solve problems by killing. That makes us the advanced species. A message from Earth arrived. President Russo had authorized Operation Justice. The plan was bold and dangerous. The Defiant would sneak into Krelthian space to gather more evidence, while Earth's ambassador kept the council distracted. The Krelthians think we're weak, Eric told his crew. They think we'll accept our losses and stay quiet. They don't understand humans yet. He smiled grimly. They're about to learn. The Defiant moved silently through Krelthian space. Thanks to Marisi's stealth technology, the ship was invisible to enemy sensors. Captain Eric Johnson stood on the bridge, watching the stars drift by. "Status report," he said quietly. "We've placed 15 quantum communication relays," Olivia Reeves replied. "The network is almost complete. These special devices would allow instant communication across vast distances. Once activated, they would broadcast evidence to the entire galaxy, bypassing Krelthian censorship." "Commander Wells, how is your team progressing?" Eric asked. Daniel Wells appeared on the screen from his shuttle. He led a small group that had infiltrated a Krelthian military base 3 days ago. They wore special suits based on Celeran designs that mimicked Krelthian biology, fooling the base sensors. "We've accessed their central database," Daniel said. "What we're finding is worse than we imagined, Captain." "Explain." "The massacre at New Hope wasn't just about territory. It was a test." Daniel's face looked grim. "They were testing a new bioweapon on our people. The executions were just to hide the evidence." Eric felt cold anger rise inside him. A bioweapon, designed to target species the Krelthians consider lesser, which is practically everyone but them. Dr. Amy Sutton, the ship's xenobiologist, joined the conversation. "Based on the data Commander Wells sent, this weapon would affect nearly 70% of Council species. It attacks specific genetic markers." "Can you download the complete weapon specifications?" Eric asked. "Already doing so," Daniel replied. "But we need to move quickly. Security patrols pass every 20 minutes. On another part of the ship, Sophia Martinez sat with Nathan Taylor, the communications specialist. They were analyzing Krelthian cultural and military transmissions. "There's a pattern here," Sophia said, pointing to a series of messages. "They don't see us as a threat. They think we're too emotional, too unpredictable." Nathan nodded. "They value order above all else. Their society has strict hierarchies. No one questions the higher ranks." "That's their weakness," Sophia said. "They don't adapt well to surprises." The ship's alarm suddenly blared. Ryan Cooper, Chief Security Officer, rushed onto the bridge. "Captain, we have a problem. 6 Krelthian warships just appeared from hyperspace. They're sweeping the area with deep scan sensors." "Have they detected us?" Eric asked. "Not yet, but the Marisi cloaking won't hold against deep scans for long." Eric made a quick decision. "Send an emergency extraction signal to Commander Wells. Tell Olivia to prepare for emergency jump. Laura, contact our allies." Everything happened at once. Daniel's team rushed back to their shuttle, barely escaping the Krelthian base. The Defiant powered up its engines, readying to run. "Captain, they've detected us," Ryan shouted. The first Krelthian shots hit the ship's shields. The Urson technology held, but the impact rocked the Defiant. "Return fire. Target their sensors only," Eric ordered. "We need to blind them, not destroy them." The Defiant's weapons fired with precision, disabling the Lid Krelthian ship's sensor array. "Jump drive ready," Olivia reported. "Wait," Eric said. "Commander Wells." "Shuttle approaching. 10 seconds to dock," Ryan replied. The shuttle bay doors opened. Daniel's team rushed inside. The doors closed just as another blast hit the ship. "Jump now," Eric ordered. The stars blurred as the Defiant escaped into hyperspace. Everyone on the bridge breathed a sigh of relief. Daniel arrived, carrying a data crystal. "We got everything, Captain. Complete plans for the bioweapon, internal communications, and something else." He paused. "A list of target planets. Earth is at the top, but there are hundreds more." Laura Bennett, who had argued for diplomacy from the beginning, looked at the crystal with horror. "This isn't just about one colony. They're planning mass genocide across the galaxy." Eric nodded grimly. "Take us back to the Alliance meeting point." The galaxy needs to see this evidence. He looked around at his crew. Operation Justice just became more important than we ever imagined. The Galactic Council chamber was packed tighter than before. Word had spread about the human evidence. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy came to watch. Even species that normally sent only junior observers had their highest leaders present. Earth's ambassador Henry Davidson stood again on the central platform. This time, he was joined by the ambassadors from the Celerin, Urson, Marisi, and Florin worlds. Behind them stood Captain Eric Johnson and his crew. Honorable representatives, Henry began, what we present today will shock you, but it must be seen. The screens lit up with the evidence from Daniel's team. The Krulthian bioweapon plans appeared first. Dr. Amy Sutton explained the science in clear terms. This weapon targets genetic markers found in most oxygen-breathing species, she said. It would be painless but total. Entire planets would die without a single shot fired. The chamber filled with worried whispers. Next came the target list, hundreds of worlds marked for cleansing. Finally, they showed recordings of Krulthian high command meetings. The recordings were damning. The Krulthian leaders spoke openly about removing lesser species to make room for their empire's expansion. The massacre at New Hope Colony was just the first test. These are lies, shouted the Krulthian ambassador. He pointed all four arms at the humans. These recordings are fake. Nathan Taylor stepped forward. We anticipated your denial. That's why we included verification codes embedded in your own communications. Any species with advanced analysis tools can confirm these recordings are genuine. Several council technicians nodded. They had already checked. The Krulthian ambassador turned to the council leader, a tall, thin alien with gray skin. This is a human trick to turn the galaxy against us. They cannot be trusted. The council leader looked troubled. The evidence seems clear, Ambassador. What do the Krulthians say in their defense? We say nothing. The Krulthian Empire does not answer to lesser beings. The ambassador stormed toward the exit, his aides following quickly. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. The council leader spoke carefully. While the evidence is disturbing, the Krulthian Empire controls the largest military force in the galaxy. We must proceed with caution. Sofia Martinez stepped forward. Eric looked surprised. She wasn't scheduled to speak. I watched them execute my friends, she said, her voice steady. 50,000 people. Men, women, children. They didn't care. And now we learn it was just a test for something much worse. She looked around the chamber. How many of your worlds are on their target list? How many billions will die while you proceed with caution? The council leader sighed. Lieutenant, we understand your anger. But what would you have us do? Start a galactic war? Ryan Cooper, the Defiant security chief, whispered something to Eric. The captain nodded and stepped forward. Honorable Council, while the Defiant was gathering evidence, Earth was not sitting idle. He nodded to Ryan, who activated a small device. New images appeared on the screens. They showed small objects near key Krulthian military installations. What are we seeing, Captain? Asked the council leader. Antimatter warheads, Eric replied calmly, placed near 27 key Krulthian bases. The chamber erupted in shocked cries. The council leader looked stunned. This is terrorism. No, Eric replied. This is leverage. Earth has never used such weapons against civilian targets and never will. These devices target only military installations and only those involved in the bioweapon program. Laura Bennett stepped forward. Earth demands justice, not war. We want those responsible for the massacre tried before this council. We want the bioweapon program dismantled, with verification by independent observers. And if these demands are not met, asked the council leader. Eric looked directly at the Krulthian representatives who remained. Then we will destroy their ability to develop weapons of mass destruction. We don't seek their extinction. Unlike them, we don't believe in genocide. But we will not allow them to threaten the galaxy. The council descended into chaos. Some species praised human boldness. Others condemned their tactics, but everyone understood. The humans would not be silent victims. They had the will to act when others would only talk. 3 days passed with no response from the Krulthian Empire. The Galactic Council remained in constant session, debating what to do. Earth's ultimatum had an 8-day deadline. 5 days remained. On the Defiant, Eric received a message from President Russo. He gathered his senior staff to hear it. Captain Johnson. The president's image said, "The Krulthian ambassador to Earth has delivered their official response. They call our evidence fake and our threats empty. They believe we lack the will to use our weapons." She paused. "They are wrong. Authorization code Alpha 7 Delta. Confirm receipt." Eric looked at his team. "They think we're bluffing." Laura shook her head. "They don't understand humans. They think all species are like them, ruled by cold calculation." "What's Alpha 7 Delta?" asked Sophia. Ryan Cooper answered grimly, "Authorization to demonstrate that our threats are real." Eric stood up. "The president is authorizing a single demonstration. One target, minimal casualties, maximum impact." "Is this wise?" Laura asked. "Once we cross this line, 50,000 of our people are already dead," Eric replied. The line was crossed at New Hope Colony. Eric entered the bridge and took his command chair. "Set course for Outpost KX-19. "That's a Krulthian military research station, sir," said the navigation officer. "Unmanned according to our intelligence." "Exactly. We'll show them we're serious without taking lives." Eric looked at Ryan. "Prepare Warhead 7 for remote detonation. Position us at safe distance." The Defiant moved through hyperspace, arriving near a small moon. Orbiting it was a Krulthian facility, all metal and sharp angles. "Scan for life forms," Eric ordered. "Scan complete. No organic signatures detected," Ryan reported. "Open a channel to the Krulthian High Command." Nathan Taylor worked his console. "Channel open, sir." Eric stood tall. "This is Captain Eric Johnson of the United Earth Defense Force. To the Krulthian High Command, you called our evidence fake. You called our threats empty. You were wrong on both counts." He nodded to Ryan. "Detonate Warhead 7. A small flash appeared near the station. Then, an explosion of incredible power tore the facility apart. The shockwave washed over the Defiant, making the ship tremble despite being at a safe distance. "Broadcast this to the entire galaxy," Eric ordered. Nathan typed quickly. "All quantum relays activated. Every species with communication technology will see this." Eric spoke again to the camera. "The facility we just destroyed was uninhabited. We chose it specifically to avoid casualties. Unlike you, we do not target innocent lives." He paused. "You have 4 days to surrender those responsible for the New Hope massacre and dismantle your bioweapon program, or we will destroy every military installation involved in its development." The broadcast ended. For a moment, the bridge was silent. "Return to Earth space," Eric ordered quietly. Within hours, the galaxy erupted in response. The Defiant's communication system was flooded with messages. Julia Sanders, the communications officer, looked overwhelmed. "Sir, we're receiving thousands of transmissions from across the galaxy." "From the Krulthians?" Eric asked. "No, from their victims." Julia's eyes widened as she read the messages. "Species we've never even heard of are contacting us, sharing stories of Krulthian atrocities, offering support. Some are even sending coordinates of other Krulthian weapons facilities." Laura looked at the flood of messages. "The Krulthians have been bullying the galaxy for centuries. No one dared to stand up to them before. Until humanity showed it could be done," Sophia said. A special message arrived from the Galactic Council. The council leader appeared on screen. "Captain Johnson," he said, "your actions have changed the balance of power in our galaxy. 37 species have formed a coalition supporting Earth's demands. They call themselves the Justice Alliance. He paused. The Krulthian Empire now faces united opposition for the first time in their history. Eric nodded. And their response? Still silence, but our intelligence suggests their leadership is divided. Some are calling for war. Others, the council leader looked surprised. Others are suggesting compliance with your demands. As the defiant headed home, the crew watched the galaxy transform. Species that had lived in fear for generations were finding their voices, and humanity, the newcomers to galactic society, had become their unlikely leader. On the final day of Earth's ultimatum, the Defiant orbited Earth. Eric stood on the bridge, watching the timer count down. Only 6 hours remained before they would be forced to destroy the Krulthian military facilities. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," Julia Sanders said. "It's coming from inside Krulthian space, but it's not on their usual channels." "Put it through," Eric ordered. The screen showed a Krulthian officer. Unlike others they had seen, this one's armor was simpler. The translator gave his words a hesitant quality. "I am Subcommander Vextal of the Krulthian Defense Force. I speak without the knowledge of the High Command." He paused. "There are many in our military who do not support the bioweapon program or the massacre of your colony." Eric exchanged surprised looks with his officers. "Why are you contacting us, Subcommander?" "Our society has been ruled by fear for too long. Many of us wish to see those responsible for the massacre brought to justice." Vextal looked over his shoulder nervously. "The High Command is divided. Some wish to surrender the guilty parties. Others prepare for all-out war." Laura Bennett stepped forward. "What are you offering?" "I can deliver the architects of the New Hope massacre and the bioweapon program to you. In exchange, you must promise fair trials, not summary executions." Eric nodded. "That has always been our intention. We seek justice, not revenge." "How do we know this isn't a trap?" Ryan Cooper asked. "You don't," Vextal admitted. "But I will provide the access codes to our defense grid as a show of good faith." After the transmission ended, the bridge erupted in debate. "We can't trust them," Ryan insisted. "This could be a trick to lure us into an ambush. Or it could be genuine," Laura countered. "If there's a chance to resolve this without more destruction, we should take it." Eric turned to Sophia. "Lieutenant Martinez, you've studied their communications more than anyone. What do you think?" Sophia considered carefully. "The Krulthians value hierarchy above all. For a sub-commander to act against the High Command is almost unthinkable. He must truly believe in what he's doing." Eric made his decision. "We'll meet them, but we'll be prepared for anything." The meeting point was a neutral space station run by the Cellarans. The Defiant arrived first, followed by a small Krulthian ship. Vextal came aboard with 6 high-ranking Krulthian officers in restraints. "These are the ones who planned the attack on New Hope Colony," Vextal said. "And these 3 developed the bioweapon." Earth's President Russo arrived on another ship, along with representatives from the Galactic Council. The prisoners were transferred to Council custody. "There will be a fair trial," the President told Vextal. "All evidence will be presented openly." News of the surrender spread quickly across the galaxy. The Krulthian High Command, facing internal rebellion and united opposition from other species, officially denounced the actions of the arrested officers. 2 weeks later, the trial began. It was broadcast to every world in the galaxy. Sophia Martinez took the witness stand first. Her voice was steady as she described the massacre. "They showed no mercy," she said. "They gave no warning. They executed everyone, scientists, teachers, children, as a test for their weapon. One by one, the evidence mounted. The Krulthian officers could not deny what they had done. Their own records proved their guilt." On the final day of the trial, Vextal approached Eric. "Your handling of this situation has surprised many in our empire. We expected humans to be vengeful, violent." "We can be," Eric admitted. "But we choose to be better than that." The Galactic Council judges delivered their verdict, guilty on all counts. The sentence was life imprisonment, not death. Some will say this is too lenient, President Rousseau told the galaxy in her address. But we will not become like those we judge. Justice is not about matching cruelty with cruelty. It's about ensuring such acts never happen again. As the prisoners were led away, Sophia felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The dead of New Hope Colony had received justice. Not revenge, but something more important. Recognition that what happened to them was wrong, and a promise to the galaxy that it would never happen again. 1 year after the trial, the galaxy had changed. The Galactic Council chamber looked different now. The curved table where only the oldest species once sat now included seats for all members, including Earth. Captain Eric Johnson, now Admiral Johnson, stood with his former crew as they received the Council's highest honor. The medal ceremony was being broadcast to every world in the galaxy. For courage in the face of overwhelming odds, the Council leader said, for seeking justice rather than revenge, and for uniting the galaxy against tyranny, we present the Star of Unity to the crew of the UES Defiant. Eric accepted the medal on behalf of his team. We did what anyone would do when faced with injustice, he said. We stood up. After the ceremony, Eric walked with Sophia through the memorial garden. It had been planted in the center of the Council space station. 50,000 trees from Earth grew here, one for each victim of New Hope Colony. At the center stood a simple stone with their names. Do you still have the nightmares? Eric asked quietly. Sophia nodded. Sometimes, but they're different now. I still see them dying. But then I see what came after, the justice, the changes. She touched one of the young trees. Their deaths weren't meaningless. They changed the galaxy. Across the station, Laura Bennett sat with Vextal, who now served as the Krelthian ambassador to the Council. The Krelthian Empire had undergone massive reforms after the trial. The old High Command had been removed, replaced by leaders who sought cooperation rather than dominance. My people still have much to learn, Vextal said. For thousands of years, we believed our strength gave us the right to rule. Now we must learn to be equals. That's something all species struggle with, Laura replied. Even humans. On Earth, President Rousseau addressed the United Nations about the new alliance treaty. The Justice Alliance had become permanent, with 46 species now participating. Earth held a special position as mediator in disputes. We are newcomers to the galactic community, she said, but our willingness to stand for what is right has earned us respect. With that respect comes responsibility. The bioweapon program had been completely dismantled. In its place, the member species created a shared medical research initiative. Dr. Amy Sutton led the Earth team, working with scientists from across the galaxy to cure diseases that had plagued multiple worlds. The Defiant had a new mission now. With Olivia Reeves as its new captain, it led explorations into unexplored regions of the galaxy, seeking new species to invite into the Alliance. On a small planet near the galaxy's edge, a ceremony marked the founding of Hope Colony, named in honor of those who died. Humans and aliens worked side by side, building homes and laboratories. This would be the first truly mixed colony, with 7 species living together. Ryan Cooper, who had left military service, now headed security for the colony. Different species, different cultures, but the same goals, he told the new arrivals. Peace, prosperity, and never forgetting what brought us together. At the Galactic Council's new education center, a class of young beings from 20 different species listened to a special guest. Sofia Martinez, now an ambassador herself, spoke about her experience. I was the only survivor, she told them. I carried the story of what happened at New Hope Colony. But what matters more is what happened after, how the galaxy came together, how justice prevailed over vengeance. A young Krelthian raised one of his 4 hands. This was the first generation raised under the new regime, taught to question rather than obey blindly. Were you not angry? Did you not want revenge? He asked. Sophia smiled gently. Of course I was angry. All humans were. But we wanted something more than revenge. We wanted justice, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who had suffered in silence. After the class, Sophia met with Eric one last time before he departed on a diplomatic mission to distant worlds. "Did you ever think one small colony could change so much?" he asked. "Not the colony," Sophia replied. "The response to what happened there. When the galaxy watched in horror, Earth demanded justice. And justice, it turns out, is contagious." On a view screen behind them, a new ship launched from Earth's orbital dock. Its name was visible on the hull, UES New Hope, the first of many ships that would carry humanity's message to the stars. Justice for all, or peace for none.